So Jeremy invited me to come in today because it's something that I'm seeing come up a lot. Two things. How do I get these buyers off the fence? Do either of you have you experienced, or even Rebecca, any of you experienced buyers who are just a little bit hesitant lately, who are unsure, who are ultra discerning and undecisive, right? So getting buyers off the fence, and then the next one that and this is on repeat, probably at least 3 times a day, is how do I get a seller to price the home realistically? Right? Like I'm sharing all the data with them and then they still want to go over, right? And you're left going, it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys are hearing that song, the guy that makes like Tinder conversations into a song, and this one's trending right now about, do you have any kids? No? Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, Jen, you nodded. So it's like, do you have any kids? And then she says, yes, I have one daughter.
I
This
haven't.
is what it, oh, now you guys have to see it. And now that your phone has listened to this conversation, you're going to. But there is a trending song. It's going to be, one of those things that you can't get out of your head now about this conversation. But this is exactly how I feel, and I've wanted to make a video about, like, but the market says this, yes, and we want to just try for the high price, but that no one's like, inventory is competitive. Yes, I want to try this high price, right? You're competing against new construction with lots of incentives. I know, and I want to try this high price. That's pretty much the song on repeat for both buyers and sellers. So what I wanted to do with you guys today is I want to take you through personality profiles, in particular, how to identify them with your buyers and sellers to help you get them off the fence and to have greater influence on helping them price the home. Now, for my 3 participants that are here live with me, oh, and Shauna's on. For my 4 participants here live with me, how many of you guys are familiar with personality profiles? Yeah, Shauna, I would expect that. Absolutely. Okay. So if you're not familiar, I'm going to give you a very high level overview, and then we're going to break it down tactfully. I'm going to talk about how to handle objections, how to influence, and how to spot them in the wild, if you will. And then most importantly, how you can adjust to meet your client where they're at. And I've got graphics to support this and a lot of different slides to help you. And I've got a resource at the end that you guys will be able to download. And the reason that I'm bringing this to the forefront is because I have a client. I can't tell you her name because she'll be mad at me for sharing her secrets. So I'm not going to tell you what market she's in. But I have a client that's going on over 10 listing appointments a week. She's absolutely crushing it. And one of the things that we have done is we've actually developed 4 different listing presentations. And Sean is going to know why we have 4. And for those of you who've never studied personality profiles, I'm going to break it down for you. The reason that she has 4 listing presentations is because we adjust based on the personality profile of the person that we're going to meet. And that's why I feel so passionate about sharing this with you guys today, because I know that it works. When you make these micro adjustments, it has macro impacts on your business for both buyers and sellers. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through just at the beginning. Yes, DISC, Rebecca. And I'm going to break it down. So you've personality profiles, DISC assessment, red personality, type 1, type A personality, all of those things. It kind of all comes back into these. I'm going to share with you guys the resource that I absolutely love. My favorite book to use this as a field guide, a study guide, is the Wilson Learning the Social Styles Handbook. It's not one that's on Audible. So if you need something that is on Audible, I would recommend the book Working with Idiots. Because that'll break it down for you. It's a great Audible book, and it breaks it down for you. But if you're looking for something else with graphics, and this is my favorite one. And the quote that I'm sharing with you guys is why I'm so passionate about this. People won't buy from you, be influenced by you, or collaborate with you if they aren't comfortable with the way you come across personally and professionally. This is you mastering influence. This is you having the ability to really get through. If you've ever been in a relationship with someone and you're like, are you understanding any of the words that are coming out of my mouth? That's the type of moment, right? It's like, I'm talking, but you're not receiving, or they're talking and you're not receiving it. We're going to help you get past that. And I'm going to start with just a brief overview of the personality profiles. And hopefully I've already built the case. When they trust you, you'll get more deals. You'll have less resistance. When they trust you, they don't question your authority. They don't question your ability to market the home. They don't come back and say, well, Shauna, before we do a price reduction, I need to know all the ways that you're selling my home besides putting it on Zillow, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing all of these things, right? And so let's talk about these personality profiles, how to spot them, how to adjust, and how to win. So the four main ones that you guys are going to look at are, I use DISC. It's going to be the driver, the expressive, the amiable, and the analytical. I'm going to break each one down for you. I'm even going to give you some examples of what they look like, and then we're going to take them into a listing presentation and into a buyer consultation. This is home base. I'm a very visual person, so this is the easiest way for me to share this with you. And again, I have these as downloadable graphics for you guys at the end. This is our axis of our four personality profiles. Each of them fit in one of these four quadrants. I want you to look at our axis. At the top of our axis, we have task-directed people. And I'm going to share with you which personality profiles they are, but it's important to know, do they care more about the task or do they care more about the people? So if you look at the bottom, you see people. You probably know someone in your life that is a great people person, and they could care less about getting a job done. They just want to make sure everybody feels good. How's everybody feeling, right? They care more about the people than the task. Whereas you probably know somebody that's like, yeah, we just have to get this done. We have to do this. They don't care if you're tired. They don't care if you're emotional. They're just, I have a job. I have to get it done. Now that's the extreme of task versus people, but those are two differentiators. Everybody in the world can be divided up by either being more task directed or more people directed. Now let's look to the left and to the right. So to the left, we have people who are more ask directed, and that's in their level of assertiveness. People who are ask directed, they tend to ask a lot of questions. So you're probably thinking, oh, maybe that means they're analytical. I'll give you a cue. Yes, analytical people are more ask directed. Ask directed people also look for outside confirmation many times. They go hand in hand. Have you ever met somebody that's like, well, what do you think? What would you do? I just need to ask my friend, right? Like they have to ask 3 or 4 people before they're comfortable making a decision moving forward. That would be people who are more ask directed. And then you have your girlfriend or your mom or some family member that's like, here's what you need to do. Okay, Erica, you're just going to go in there, you're going to do this, right? And they literally just tell. That's tell directed, right? So you can start to see how we're shaping up. People are either task directed or people directed. And then they're either ask directed or they're tell directed. Tell tends to be a little bit bossy. Neither of these are good or bad. You can have too much of any of this and then it can turn negative. But for the most part, it's neither good nor bad. It's just part of our personality. So in our top quadrant, you'll see a task-directed person that's also tell-directed. There's what's known as a driver. They are a very bold personality. We're going to go a little bit deeper into that, more characteristics, but that's our first personality profile, task and tell-directed. Then you have on the bottom of the tell-directed, those are your expressives. They care about people, they care about emotions, and they're also bossy and will cut you off in talking to you. They're more tell-directed as well. On the left side, we have our amiable. They are people-driven, ask in their assertiveness. So they are one of the one of the tails is like when they say, what do you think? What would you do? Right? They care a lot about people and they ask a lot of questions. And then you have your analytical. Analyticals are very task directed and they also are ask in their assertiveness. They're going to ask a lot of questions. They're the one that want to see the entire HOA, CC&Rs, and they want to read through the entire thing. And I'm just like, yeah, just give me the highlights. Can I paint my house pink? No? Okay, I'm out, right? Whatever it is. These are your four main personalities. Now, everybody has in them levels of these. So for instance, if you didn't already know this about me, I am an expressive driver. So my main natural personality profile is an expressive with a high underlining driver. Well, for me, that changes. I'm an oldest child. So in my family, I'm a driver. I'm bossy. That's just who I am. I would say in my family of origin, my birth family, I'm the oldest child. My mom relied on me for everything. She was 18 years old, and that's just who I am, right? Whenever in coaching, most of the times I show up as a driver because I am the coach and I'm leading it. But if you take and put me into a room, so like I'm going to the Tom Ferry Success Summit next week, there are so many ridiculously power hungry drivers in that room. I just get to show up as an expressive. I'm fun. Like I'm here for the party. And that's my natural. Um, my lowest of all of the four quadrants is analytical. But because I have 8 kids and because I have a busy life, it's forced me to be more organized and more structured. So over the years, my analytical side has actually grown. And you will find that depending on where you're at in your life, you may be more driver or you may be more amiable. It kind of goes back and forth. So almost everybody has two, their main and then their next one. You also have what's natural and then what's forced. Amiable, I'm also a mid to high amiable as well. So I'm actually more people directed than I am task directed. Under stress, I go all task. And these are things that I've learned about myself over time. So let's dig into these four different personalities and how you can identify them. I thought it'd be fun to pick a famous person that you could pinpoint. Our president is also a driver. Most of the presidents are drivers, but our current president is also a driver. And you might know this gentleman. He's also a driver. I can't watch him because he makes me sad. He's not nice to people, and I don't like that. But if you know who this is, then you know that he's a driver. So what are they all about? Drivers, you'll notice them because they're driven by fast results right now. They're very like fast paced, don't waste my time, let's get into it, high level, make decisions very, very fast. Shauna says she's a DISC. Interesting. We're like twins. I like that. I love that. Their biggest fear is losing control. That's their biggest fear. You can use that against them because you can make them think they're in control. If you've ever been married, you might know what that looks like. If you've ever been in a relationship, you know what I'm talking about when you like make them think it's their idea, but it was really your idea all along. Their biggest fear is losing control. How do they make decisions? And this is important. So when I'm profiling a prospective seller or a buyer, I want to know how they make decisions. If they're a driver, they like to make decisions quick and independently. I don't need you to tell me your thoughts. I've got this. That's their mentality. And they're going to do it quick. And if it's a mistake, that's fine. They'll do it quickly and change it, and they don't care. They're going to go. So quick and independent. They value control, they value efficiency, and they value winning. So is that good or bad? No, it's just something that I need to know about them. I'm not going to show up with a driver and be like, so tell me about your day. Oh, they hang up on you. Like that's so inefficient and it's not needed. I don't want to waste my time, right? So what will you see? They can be sharp. So when my family, they often tell me like, you're just so harsh. That's what and I'm like, everybody likes me. I am not harsh. But my family identifies me as that because of my tone. I'm fast. I don't have time for bullshit. Let's just go. I've got things to do. And that can come off as cold and sharp. So you might look for that. In terms of body language, they're going to give you eye contact. It may feel like a stare down. It's not a stare down. It's just, let's get to the point, right? They'll tend to lean forward. They're not going to use like big, bold hand movements like that. It's going to be precise. It's going to be tight. It's going to be direct. So they focus on the what and not why. It's less about emotions. It's factual. It's efficient. Just move forward. So if you're going to email them, cut out the fluff, right? If you're communicating with a driver as a buyer or a seller, no fluff. Get right to the point. Don't waste their time. That's also in text messages and phone numbers, or text messages and phone numbers, text messages and emails. So what you want to look for in terms of when they're stressed. So again, when I'm stressed, I go driver versus expressive. I go task directed, especially in a time crunch. So they get bossy. They dominate the conversation. They'll cut you off. Again, not good or bad. We just need to be aware of it and ask some open-ended questions to help us identify what's stressing them out. So how do you win with a driver? Speak in bullet points and not stories, which can be hard for me because I'm an expressive and I do tell stories. But I know when I'm working with a driver, just cut out the story. They don't care. I can laugh to the story in my head by myself. Tell my story. I tell my stories in the car. Get to the bottom line fast. And that's why we say when bullet points, and this becomes really, really critical because in a listing presentation, you have to be efficient with a driver. Be confident, but don't overtalk them. Remember, they don't want to lose control. They want to be the dominant person in the personality and in the conversation. So be confident. They will eat you alive if they feel like you don't have confidence and you will not win. Let them make the call, right? I'm 100% on your side. What do you think? How do you want to move forward, right? I'm going to give you some ways to address that. Don't repeat yourself. Don't overshare personal stories. Don't be late. Don't miss a deadline. If you say you're going to do something, you better do it. The mantra, on time is late, early is on time with a driver, that's the way you do it. They really do value, like if you say that you're going, I'll have that report to you by 6 o'clock. If you can't do that, don't promise that, right? Like, excite them if it gets there first, if it gets there early. So a good opener. Again, efficiency. So here's the fastest path forward to get you what you want. That's a great opener. The way that I see it, here's the fastest path forward to get you what you want. Here's the next step. You're kind of buttering them up. Let's look at the expressive. This is the best of all the personalities. I'm kidding. So they're motivated by excitement and people and recognition. They kind of like recognition a lot. So you can't ignore them. They don't want to be ignored. In fact, that's their biggest fear, is being ignored or left out. They have real FOMO, especially if they're like way over expressive. And that's because they're people directed. So being left out or being ignored hurts because they care so much. They also make decisions super fast, but it's based on emotion and not fact. So again, they may or may not. There's not a clear-cut path of like, are they external, like the amiable? They're going to talk to people about it, but it's going to be like, this just feels right. This just feels like I just know it. Que Dios quiere, right? Like they just know it and it feels good. So you actually can influence an expressive by using trigger words around emotions and feelings. So what do they value? Connection, energy, and envisioning the future. So when you're trying to influence an expressive, you can absolutely talk about, can you just imagine the parties you're going to have in this backyard? That's going to light up an expressive because now they're picturing the future. There's people. This is such a good feeling. You'll be able to. So what will you see? Big, bold personality, lots of movement. You may even see it in their clothes, lots of patterns, big, bold colors, where a driver's going to wear red, black, white, solid, bold, and expressive's going to have patterns and color. If you were to walk into an office space and look at two different desks, you would spot an expressive desk because it's going to have personality. Right? It's going to have a little character. It's going to have 14 colored Sharpies because they are colorful, right? It's going to have a lot of personality. They talk a lot. They talk more than they listen, and that can be negative. They use words like fun, amazing, I love this. It's great. Big words. Flashy. Yeah, look at a phone case. You can always spot an expressive. It's going to be flashy. It's going to be decorated. Um, they get dramatic when they're stressed, though. Is it me? Am I the drama? Most importantly, when they're stressed, they avoid following through, and that's making a decision. They can get distracted really easily, so you've got to keep a highly expressive person on task. Otherwise, your appointments are going to go too long and you're not going to get enough done. Like if you've ever, you know what this is like, where you've ever been on an appointment with someone, it's going so well, and then you're like, oh my gosh, but we didn't like make a decision and move you forward. So pay attention to that. If you want to win with them, match their energy, match their enthusiasm, right? Nothing is going to, you will be out of rapport if you show up just cold and dry. So you need to acknowledge their ideas and their vision. Remember, they don't like to be ignored. So acknowledge their ideas and their vision. Use stories. Where you don't use stories with drivers, you're going to use stories and examples, visuals, emotion, all of that works with an expressive. And you want to keep things lighthearted and goal-oriented. This is going to help you get what you want. Don't be too stiff. So that opener where you don't, talk about how they're feeling and how their weekend was with a driver, you absolutely have to do that with an expressive. If you just go right into business, they're going to think you're cold or stiff. Don't overdo the details. So similar to a driver, give them high-level bullet points. Don't drown them in numbers. Definitely don't ignore them or their feelings. Acknowledge them. Redirect them if you need to. So, talk about the main character energy. This home has such a great vibe. That's definitely down the lane of an expressive. Let's talk about the analytical. Bill Gates. He's a perfect example of an analytical. So what are they all about? Well, they're about motive, logic, and clarity. How do they make decisions? Or I guess their biggest fear, being wrong, which is why they take such a long time to make decisions. So their biggest fear is being wrong or not being prepared. And because of that, they move very, very slow and very deliberate. If you try to force an analytical person to make a decision quickly, you will not win them over as a client. They'll ghost you, actually. That's the telltale sign of you're not in rapport with an analytical. They just ghost you. So be cognizant of that. What do they value? They value process. They value facts and figures and details and follow through. So similar to a driver, what a driver and analytical share in common is they're task-directed people. So what will you see? They're going to be more soft-spoken. They're going to be deliberate in their word choice because they're not like an expressive where they just say whatever's on their mind and da 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 da, right? So it's going to be slow and deliberate. They can sometimes seem serious, right? Just arms crossed, maybe maybe a little bit closed, but again, they're discerning people, so they're just processing, and that's how it comes across. They're going to ask a lot of questions. It always amazes me. I'm part of the East Valley Astronomy Club because, well, my husband is an analytical driver. And so I'm a member of the East Valley Astronomy Club with him. And I'm always amazed. Like I crack myself up the entire meeting because of the questions that these people ask are things that I never in a million years would have thought of. Like, I want to know what color the telescope comes in. That's like for me, because again, I'm an expressive driver. I'm like, does it come in pink? But I would never ask that question because they would look at me like I was crazy. But they ask very detailed questions and they love spreadsheets and they love market trends and they want to know guarantees and they want to know about warranties. So those are things that I would come prepared for in a listing presentation. And when I know that I'm going to meet with an analytical, I'm not skipping over the details. It's not bullet points, it's full paragraphs. And it works for them and you'll be in rapport. If they're stressed out, they withdraw. Right? Or they go into analysis paralysis where they're over researching and just like going way, way too deep. So pay attention to that. How do you win with them? Well, bring your facts, not emotion. That's the biggest one because they don't care about emotion. They care about facts. So your details, your inspection reports, be exact. Don't use words like estimate. They don't estimate, they're exact. Explain the process start to finish. So where some people, I mean, when I bought my first home, and I'd be curious, throw it in the chat if you're like this. I am the person where, when I got the DocuSign, I was like, click, 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 click. I did not read anything. That's not good, you guys. I'm fully admitting I signed that entire purchase agreement and didn't read a thing. If you're working with an expressive, please take the time to explain to them what they're signing, right? They need to know because it'll come back and bite you if they're like, well, I didn't know I only had 10 days to do my inspection, right? You got to bring out the bullet point details for them. But I just clicked through the entire thing. Your analyticals, they're going to read everything and they're going to ask you a million questions, right? So prepare them in advance. Whenever I'm working with an analytical, I send them all the paperwork in advance before I jump on the phone with them because they're going to look through it. They're going to read it. You got to give them space to think. Remember, if you're working with an analytical and also with an amiable, you do not want to rush them in their decision making. You want to help them get to a decision, but you don't want them to feel the pressure from you. And then everything should be nice and clean and tidy. Your summaries, all of that. Think definitely more on the driver's side, less stories, more facts and figures. Definitely don't wing it. Don't overshare. Don't overtalk. Be precise. And don't ignore their objections. If they have an objection, it's actually real. There's something there for them that's unanswered, and you need to help them get to the bottom of it. So a good opener. Here's the full data set on why this pricing strategy works, right? So I just feel like the market. So when someone says, how's the market? Oh, I feel like it's good. I feel like it's moving. A driver and an analytical are going to eat you for lunch, right? Well, here's what I know. Based on the most current data, right? And then you're going to be precise and you're going to be exact and you'll get credibility. So our last personality profile before we start to get into some scripts and some dialogues and how to spot them is the amiable. He's a great example of an amiable. Amiables are the best because they're the people that know how everybody's feeling and want to make sure that everybody's comfortable. They are very aware of their surroundings, right? And that's because they are more on the ask directed. So they value stability, reassurance. They don't like change. And because they're people directed, they value relationships. So again, they're great. They make the best friends. Amiables make the best friends. Oftentimes you'll find them in the service industry. So nurses, teachers, just really compassionate. Their biggest conflict is instability, change, or sorry, their biggest fear is conflict, instability, and change. So oftentimes you'll find that they're the people that are like, well, I don't want to lose this buyer, so let's just agree to everything that they want. That's a telltale sign that you're dealing with an amiable. They're like, oh, this could go wrong. I don't want that. What's the safest path forward? They're looking for safety and security. They make decisions super, super, super slow because they're very cautious. Very much like the analytical. So analyticals and amiables make decisions in the same way, just like a driver and expressive make decisions in the same way. They value energy that's calm, kindness, reassurance. Again, they don't like to deal with conflict. That's like the biggest thing. They avoid conflict at all costs. So what are you going to see? You're going to see that warm side, that soft side, definitely service oriented. They're going to ask a lot of personal questions of you. They're going to want to know, well, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your family. How did you get into real estate? Why did you choose this as your career? Tell me about clients that you've helped. Again, ask a lot of questions. They use words like feel, together, safe. If you are showing homes to an amiable, they're going to refer to all of the party that is making the decision. I just want to make sure the kids feel good about this. I want to make sure that everyone's happy with this space. So it's not just about their decision, it's a collective decision. Yeah, definitely people-oriented, family photos on their, family photos on their lock screen, on their desk. When they're stressed, they tend to act more like an analytical. They get indecisive. They look for a lot of reassurance. So they're gonna ask their posse, right? They're gonna go out to their crew. What do you think? What would you do? Just tell me what to do. Is oftentimes what you will hear, an amiable, like, well, what do you think? And that's not necessarily a bad thing because you are the expert and you can drive them in the right direction. So with an amiable, you need to take your time building trust and rapport with them. Get to know them, get to know the why behind the decision, right? The why behind the decision. Jen says, I bought my house when you had to do 5 copies. Oh, dang. Press hard, lots of copies. Carbon copy. Actually, I bought a home in New Mexico in 2009, and my real estate agent was my aunt, and we did not do electronic signatures. We did carbon copy signatures. That was an interesting experience. So you need to show that you care about them. Remember, they're people oriented. So if they feel like you're just out to make a quick buck, that's not going to work. They won't trust you, and eventually they'll probably ghost you because they avoid conflict. So they just won't call you back. Um, so you need to be patient with them, be steady, be calming, be reassuring, offer clear next steps with no pressure, right? So clear next steps with no pressure. You don't want to push too hard, they'll ghost you. You don't want to skip the small talk because they're people directed. They care about that kind of stuff. They want to feel seen and heard, and they want to know how you're doing. Don't rush them into decisions. Definitely don't surprise them. They don't like change. So let's walk through this at your pace and make sure you feel good about this process. That's going to let them know that you care more about them than your own wallet, than your own paycheck. Think of like the best way to think about working with an amiable is truly a consultant and not a salesperson. Like that's the best way to be able to do that. So your job is to adapt. It is not our client's responsibility. It's our job to adapt. So you've got to be able to be flexible with your style. Like I said, if I'm going with a driver, I tone down my expressive. I just turn on my driver. If I'm working with an amiable, it's really easy because I am people directed, so I can do that. The hardest client for me to work with is an analytical. And even in my coaching world, if an analytical comes into my schedule, I let them know. I said, I'm highly efficient, highly organized, but I just move things forward. So if you want someone to slow down and like dig into this, I'm probably not your coach because that's going to drive me crazy. I drive analyticals crazy, they drive me crazy. So think of yourself as a chameleon. You just need to be able to shift enough to be in rapport. I'm not asking you to change who you are. Like I said, I'm just upfront with analyticals. And if I have if our real estate client is an analytical, I'm just like, you're working with Meryl. Like you're going to be happy working with Meryl. You guys are going to speak the same language. And then if there's an expressive in the family, I'll just entertain them. And that's okay. I know who I like to work with and I know what I do well. So you got to practice. Don't pretend. You got to practice. And this is really good because it's not just with your clients. This is with your family members. This is with your friends. When you start to notice these things, you can start to speak in a language that they understand. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but this is one of the resources that I recommend that you print off. So this is something that I would keep like at your desk when you're making calls. I would keep this in front of you when you're preparing for a listing appointment or a buyer consultation so that you remember what these people are. So this is another one that's just going to break it down for you. You'll download it. All of these you'll download as a resource to help you. I got them all from the Social Styles Handbook. But let's talk about the listing. These are specific ways. This is a cheat sheet that I use with my coaching client. We developed a series of questions that we ask over the phone. So whenever we get a listing appointment, I'm curious, how many of you guys pre-qualify a listing appointment over the phone? Right? Do you? Okay, so Shauna's raising her hand, Jen's nodding, everybody else is off camera. But you can put it in the chat. So that's a very good practice. Like you don't want to show up to the listing appointment and it's not a great listing appointment because not all the decision makers are there, or you thought it was a different scenario because you didn't ask enough questions. So one of the things that we developed for my client who I think she has like 22 active listings right now, but she's putting 5 to 10 on the market every single week, and then they're going under contract. She's already sold 150 listings this year. And this is a big part of our process. Her phone interview lasts somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour. So it is truly an interview. And this is just a highlight of some of the things. So we'll ask a question, something along the lines of, tell me about your home. Here's your cheat sheet, right? If they're short and to the point, they're probably a driver. Now, you can't just ask one question and get this. You're going to ask a couple questions, right? We ask a lot of questions. That's why it takes 30 minutes to an hour. If they tell a story, they're probably inexpressive. If they're sentimental about the memories, oh, we've raised our family here. We buried our dog in the backyard. They're going amiable, right? And if they're like, well, it's 2,400 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2-story. We have 3 AC units. Yeah, they're probably analytical, right? Because they went right into the specifics of the home. Here's another one. Have you sold the home before, and what was that experience like? So again, if they describe the agent and the relationship, they're probably more amiable, right? If they talk about control or the expectations, our agent was absolutely great. They marketed the home like a professional. We got 10 offers. It went above list. Da, 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 da. They're probably more on that driver's side. So those are just a couple examples of how we set up buyer consultations, or I like a buyer strategy session better, buyer strategy sessions. And also, we don't call them listing presentations anymore. We call them seller strategy session as well. And this is before I ever show up at the home or before we meet them in person, because I want to know which version of myself and which version of my presentation am I bringing to that meeting. So here's another cheat sheet for you. Clues that you'll hear and how to adapt your approach. These are resources that I'm going to give you. If you're newer to this, again, I would print this off. I'd have it in front of you. I'd review it before you go into any of these meetings. The reason I like to have it in front of me is because if I'm taking a call at my desk, which always happens, right? Like all of the calls that we take, we're sitting at our desk, our CRM is open, we have a pen in our hand, and no one's bothering us, and all of our attention is there. Yeah, right. Sometimes I take calls in my closet because my kids are so loud, right? But that's why I use AI. So one of the biggest game changers over the past year in my business is adapting AI. Now, AI is changing so fast. I'm just going to share with you guys what I do. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. So I actually use, and he's charging right now, but I'll pull him off the charger. I actually use this guy. This is Plod. Yeah, Shauna's got one. I've been using this since like last October is when I really started using it on everything. So what does it do? It magnetizes to the back of my phone. So every single phone call that I take is being recorded. And I'm going to show you what I do with that. I use it on every presentation that I go on. Now, I'll also let you know, Plod, I have a couple links to him so you can see. I just got mine on Amazon. There's a couple different versions of theirs. There's this one that goes on your phone. And then there's like a little, it kind of looks like just a little tube of chapstick, if you will. You can wear it on your wrist, you can wear it as a pendant, it can magnetize, and you can use it as a lapel. I actually like using the other version on in the wild because one of the listing appointments I went on, I accidentally left my phone in another room. So if you don't carry your phone with you around the entire house when you're doing the tour, you'll miss some of what you do. But why do I use it? Well, because I want to analyze my clients. So the first thing that I did, this was step one, is I started taking my transcriptions and uploading them to ChatGPT. And the first thing I wanted to do is I just want to know, who am I dealing with? So this is the prompt that I first developed. I said, identify their personality profile, their communication style. I want you to pay attention to the pain points or priorities they mention. Also provide any insights or specific objections, reservations, motivations that they express that I should address. Offer tailored strategies to help me build rapport, present my services in a way that resonates with them, and address any unstated concerns. This was like my first aha unlock moment of and by the way, if you use Follow Up Boss and have a Follow Up Boss number, you can just do this inside your CRM. So you can also, you don't have to have a Plod device. You can just use the natural recording device on your phone. The reason I like Plod is that it identifies different voices. So when I'm uploading the transcript, it'll know Kristi said that, speaker one, speaker two, and then I can name them. So it's really helpful. Then I decided, why not also stalk my clients on, well, actually, let's take all of their communication. So many times these leads come in, we're emailing back and forth, we're texting back and forth. So I started taking all of my communication, not just the transcription of the phone call, but any text and written communication and putting it in here. Same thing. What I really wanted to do was start to identify personality profiles, communication preferences, and any other hidden objections or things like that. Then I thought, why not also take social media? So that was step three. I was like, many times I can find these people online. And if I can find them online, could AI help me understand who I'm dealing with? If their profile's not public, you're not gonna be able to use this as well. And it'll say, oh, I can't see that. So then I would just tell it what I saw. I say, well, the last 5 posts look like this. And I could even copy and paste their post into AI and it could give me some insight. I can't tell you how many times this section and seeing into their social media world has given me an edge on a listing presentation because AI sees things that we just tend to overlook. It's actually kind of creepy, if I'm being honest. So this is the one that you'd want. Before I go on a buyer consultation or before I go on a listing presentation, I'm taking everything like that and I'm putting into AI. And I'm looking for 4 things. 1, personality profile. 2, communication preferences, right? Do they want direct? Do they want efficient, informal, friendly, written, detail-oriented, high-level bullet point based on their communication? And it's also pulling out emotional and motivational cues for me that most of the time I'm able to see that, but there's been several instances. I share a story of one time I was taking a call in the car with my kids, and you guys know if you've ever taken a phone call in the car with your kids, they're angels. They just sit there quietly, not making a single noise, definitely not hitting each other or, whispering loud or turning on TikTok or something, right? They're little angels. So I played the mute unmute game, right? So it's like, hey guys, I gotta take this phone call. I need you to be quiet. And then, hello, this is Kristi, right? And as I'm doing that, of course, the kids start fighting in the back. So I mute, right? And then I threaten them. Never. I am super, super patient. Hey, my lovely children, I really need you to be quiet. I'm on the phone. Um, and so I took the transcription, uploaded it to AI, and the first thing it said is, you should talk to the wife. And I was like, come again? What did what did you see? All-knowing AI. And it showed me in the conversation in 3 different instances where he mentioned his wife. And because I was distracted by driving and my children having a complete meltdown in the back seat, I didn't hear that. And so that's just an example of how the AI has been able to help me kind of tune in to things that maybe I would have missed. And it's been a total game changer. So if you're not doing that, I highly recommend that you do that. So let's cover a couple objections because we have time and I want to make sure we jump into that. Let's cover a couple objections and how you can handle them based on their personality profile. So common objection that we hear both with buyers and with sellers is, I need to think about it. Ever hear that one? Yep. Oh, we need to think about it, right? So if you're dealing with a driver, here's a couple things that you need to know. If they're saying that they need to think about it, it's not that they're unsure, it's just they don't want you to push them. Remember, they fear losing control. And so you don't want to push them. They want to have the final word. So you have to present it in a way that makes them feel like they're in control. Think of it as the illusion of choice. You want to give them the illusion of choice. They also may be testing your confidence. Many times, drivers want to be met by competency. So they may be testing you. Are you playing it too easy? Have you ever had a client say, like, how do I know you're going to fight for me? How do I know that you're going after what I want? They're testing you. They want to make sure you're not going to lay over, and especially a driver. So you have to show that. So how do you respond? You know what? You strike me as someone who makes smart, fast decisions. What's still missing from this for you? What do you need to move forward? Right? That's going to help them realize, yeah, you know what? Again, I do make smart, quick decisions. So something's missing. What's going to, what do you still need? And then most of the time they'll tell you. This is more Chris Voss style. Would it be a terrible idea to lock in the best option today so you can stay ahead of the market? They want to win. So present it in an option. Would it be a terrible idea? Well, no, it's not a terrible idea. They make fast decisions. So lean into the fact that they make fast decisions. With an expressive, if they say they need to think about it, they're probably overwhelmed or they're distracted, right? And that's a coping mechanism. They start to, and you've probably seen it. If you have kids, you've probably seen this when they like, hey, can I go to the bathroom in class? That's just an avoidance mechanism that children use when they don't want to do the work or when they're confused or when they're overwhelmed. Adults do it as well. They're reacting emotionally and fear, regret, or looking dumb. So they're caught up in the emotions and it may not be logical. And so you're going to have to tie them back to what they really want. They also may not feel seen in the process, so they could be throwing a fit. Remember, they can have a tendency towards the drama. So how do you respond? Sounds like. Sounds is a label. So this is an advanced strategy that I'm layering in, but basically what I'm doing is I'm putting a label on this. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. They will either agree with you or they're going to correct you. So it sounds like you're trying to make the right call and keep it exciting. So what doesn't feel fun anymore? What doesn't feel right? Because again, remember, they're emotional. So I'm going to put a label on it and then I'm going to go into emotions. What doesn't feel? What doesn't seem? Right? You can also say, let's talk through this because they love to talk. What's exciting you most about this? Where are you feeling unsure? And then, go through it with them. Do the old-fashioned pros and cons list. They just may need to talk through it. A lot of these people are verbal expressives as well. So they verbally process as well, internally and externally, like they verbally process their feelings. So when an analytical says that they need to think about it, they actually do. They have unanswered questions. They don't have all the information. So at that point, you need to tie up any loose ends, but you also need to keep them from over analyzing, right? Because they have a tendency to do that when they're unsure. So if you pressure them, they'll ghost you because then they think you're just out for yourself and you're not for them. So you want to agree with them, right? Don't disagree. So you could say something like, that's fair. That seems fair. What data or what clarity would make you feel like this is a more confident move for you? What's still missing? How do we get you to the level of confidence to move forward, right? What seems to be lacking? Would it be helpful if I went over the numbers again in writing, step by step? How about we do this? Let's sit down and go through the process from start to finish and answer any open loops for you. So again, by reassuring them that you will slow it down to answer their questions, you stay in rapport, but you can still move them forward because maybe you do have that data point for them, or maybe you can lean into logic with them and push them forward. With an amiable, usually they're avoiding conflict. So if they say they need to think about it, they're scared to disappoint you, they're unsure, they haven't had their external person give them the reassurance, and most importantly, they're avoiding conflict. So like I said, they might be buying time to ask someone else. You need to leave space for that. So you might ask, no pressure, right? Like, hey, I'm 100% on your side. What would help you feel more comfortable right now? It seems like you're wanting some reassurance from someone else. Tell me about your team. When you need help, who do you go to? Right? They may say their mom, their uncle, their best friend. Perfect. I'm not sure if it's for you, but I'd love to jump on a call, right? And then you can bring that external person in there. They also want to be like most people, right? Because they avoid conflict. Many people in your shoes take a night to sleep on it. How about we do this? And then you can lay forward the step for them. Or most people find it helpful to, and then insert whatever, to review the facts and then sleep on it. It doesn't always work if you're in a fast-paced environment. Driver objections and responses. Actually, let's play a quiz. We're gonna end with a quiz, and then I'll answer any questions before we go. So I'm gonna skip to a little quiz. It's only 4 questions. It's super simple. So then you guys can have fun, and then we'll answer questions. So I want you to tell me, who am I? Share my screen. So you can just drop it in the chat. Who am I? I just want everybody to be happy with the decision. Who are you dealing with? What personality are you dealing with? I just want everybody to be happy. Shauna says an amiable. What makes you say that, Shauna?
Because they care about harmony and relationships.
Yep, that's it. That's your telltale sign. I just want everybody happy with the decision. They avoid conflict. So, yep, you're absolutely right. Let's just get to the bottom line. And imagine that I said that just like that. You know what? What's the bottom line? How do we get the highest net? Who are we dealing with? Bottom line is your big cue that you're dealing with a driver, 100%. Their driver personality, like let's cut to the chase. Okay? How do we make this happen? How do we put a deal together? You know, you're dealing with a driver. That's interesting. Can you show me the 6-month pricing trend? Right? I'd love to see the market stats for, all of 85298 or something like that, right? You already know when you're going into that you're dealing with more of an analytical when they want to show the pricing trend. And amiable might absolutely be inside of the pricing trend as well, because they want safety and security. So oftentimes if they're struggling with a decision, you can push them over the top with logic. There's your analytical. I love this vibe. It's so me. I'm gonna put my plants over here, and we're gonna paint this wall, and then we're gonna do this, and then I'm gonna have this party, right? Like, you can see that coming across a lot when you're dealing with that type of person. So let's pull together some action items. I gave you high level things that you can look at. I gave you a couple scripts in the resources. Oh, I guess I should share that because I put together a resource package for you guys on this. So you can't really scan, but if you just go to Instagram and DM me, you'll be able to get the resources. So if you message me on Instagram, DISC or DISC, then you'll get the resources, you'll get the slides. I have some scripts in there. I have that. I should have. If it's not, let me know, and I'll have my assistant put in the resources. But I also have 20 questions that we ask in the pre-listing appointment to be able to identify what's the personality profile that we're working with so that we can adjust our style. But now let's talk about, what are you guys going to do? You took the time to come here and spend time with Jeremy and I and learn about this so you could get buyers off the fence and to have more influence with your sellers. What do you do moving forward? What are your action steps? I'm going to pick on Rebecca first just because Shauna's been so awesome. I'm gonna pick on her next.
You're too funny. What are we gonna do? Scan the code. Well, it's funny because what I'm kind of curious about. I mean, I'm an ID, so so it's kind of. I think people are kind of mixed. So that's kind of my question. I know we're not talking about questions, but I'm just going to think. I haven't been on a listing appointment for a while. In the last couple of ones I've had, I've been past clients, so I haven't really had to deal with this. But I think it's interesting, and I think I need to study it because I do want to get more listings. That's kind of what I'm working on this year. So I think this is really good because I hadn't even thought about it for a while. So thanks. My only concern is that people are two different things. I think sometimes I hear that women are more the decision makers. So do you aim towards the woman if she's more the decision maker, or do you aim more towards whoever's the analytical, or do you go back and forth between the different personalities? Because usually couples are not the same personality.
100%. And you're absolutely right, Rebecca. We all are a mixed, right? Like we all have that in us. And that's why you can't ask one question and say, oh, they're a driver. Oh, they're this. We are a hybrid. And most of the time, when you are in a listing appointment with more than one person, you're going to be dealing with different personality profiles. And that's where you have to really focus on the questions that you ask and how you would model. So my husband is a analytical driver. I'm an expressive driver. So when you come to meet with us, right, you're dealing with the main personality, he's analytical. My main personality is expressive. So if you start to drone on, you've lost me, right? So how do you adapt? Well, bring in the visual cues, right? In your listing presentation, you're going to share the data, but can you put it in an infographic as well? And then I would say to Meryl, by the way, Meryl, I actually have a full email with all of the spreadsheet if you want to dig into it. Now you're speaking to both. So again, what do we have in common? We both want the details. I want it in a bullet point, possibly an infographic. He wants the full-blown, 12 paragraph thing. Can you give it to us in both ways? 100%. Share the most important data points and then offer it to us in an email for full support, or you could print it off and give it to him. I'm not going to look at it. Just show me the pretty one with 4 points, right? So you do have to be adaptable to those personalities. You don't want to overcompensate for one or the other because we could be absolutely wrong. And remember, people are a hybrid of those. So here's what I would say, Rebecca. Take time to create a set of questions, like refine your pre-listing appointment, even with your past clients when you go on the appointment. Practice with them, especially if you know you have a high level of rapport and you're going to probably get the listing anyways. Practice on them. So what are the 10 to 20 questions that you ask before you go on the listing appointment so that you know what you're working with? And there are questions around, so in the resources you'll see I have questions on decision-making style, questions on communication style, questions on expectations and triggers, also questions around urgency and time frame, past experience and motivation. All of that will change how I speak to them. And that would probably be the best thing you could do right now. Even if all of your listing appointments moving forward are with, clients you've previously helped, think of like what's one small shift I could make in my verbiage and in my presentation that better aligns so that they understand and we're speaking the same language.
Now, are these questions you're asking over the phone before you get there?
Yes, even with my closed clients, I never treat, I did this with my grandma when I sold her house. I treat every single listing appointment as if it's with someone that I have to fight for the business. And that's because I never want to assume any part of the transaction that they know. I don't care if they've sold 10 homes or they've never sold a home. I ask a series of questions that could be like, well, what's prompting you to sell right now? Is there a specific timeline that you're sticking to? Have you already found your next home or are you still exploring options, right? What if I know that they've sold a home before, I wouldn't ask that, but have you sold a home before? What worked well, what didn't? What do you expect from the agent that you hire? What do you think a real estate agent's job is specifically, right? So I actually print it out and take it with me. I ask those questions on the phone, then I take it out and I print it and go into the listing appointment and I reiterate. So remind me, you guys are moving to Raleigh and you want to be there by this time. Okay, perfect. And you have sold a home before. And the last time you sold the home, you said that the agent just stuck a sign in the yard and never did anything. What would you like to see differently this time, right? So doesn't matter the scenario, I do it every single time and I have them prepared in advance. I practice them. So, okay, awesome. I got a jet because I got to get onto a coaching call. I appreciate you guys being here. I know this was a little bit different than what we normally do in Agent Tactics, but I had a lot of information to give you, a lot of resources. I can't wait to hear back from you guys about what you've taken from today. And again, even if you just make one small change in how you communicate with your clients, I promise it'll help you win. Thanks, everybody.
And no call
Have a great
next
day.
week because it's Summit, right?
Probably, but Jeremy's in charge. I would say probably not because I won't be here and I think he's not going to be here either. So thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kristi. Thanks, Jeremy.